Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome, and please consider subscribing if you want to. I'm Alyssa, and today we're going to talk about one of the most important decisions you will make when designing your e-learning course, which is to choose which instructional system design model to use. This information is my perceptions from my experience. As you may know, instructional system designs models provide a framework for designing effective e-learning courses. There are many different models out there, including these three that I will talk today, which is ADDIE, SAM, and Agile. ADDIE is one of the most widely used and well-known, with a long history of successful implementation in various organizations and industries. SAM, or Successive Approximation Model, is a newer model that has gained traction in the instructional design community due to its iterative and agile approach to design. And the last one that I'll talk about is Agile. Although initially it was designed for software development, but it has gained popularity in recent years in the instructional design field, especially for e-learning and online training. There are many other ISD models out there, but I will not be covering those in these videos. Next, we will discuss the pros and cons of each of these three widely used models. And stay tuned until the end if you want to know which is my favorite and why. Alright, ADDIE, like I said, is a widely used ISD model that has been around for decades. It is an acronym that stands for Analysis, Design, Development, Implementation, and Evaluation. The ADDIE model provides a systematic approach to designing and delivering effective learning experiences. The first phase that we'll talk about on this slide is analysis. Analysis involves identifying the needs of the learners and the goals of the learning experience. This includes understanding the intended audience, their learning styles, and any constraints that may impact the design. In the second phase of ADDIE is design. I'm going to move my face to the middle because it's covering the text. So in this design phase, the instructional design will create a plan to meet the learning objective, and it also includes deciding on the content and the instructional methods to use and assessment strategies. The design phase would also involve creating a prototype or storyboard of the e-learning module. The third phase is develop. It involves creating the actual learning materials that includes creating the content, activities, practice activities, assessments, and any multimedia components that include all assets such as graphics, audio scripts, video recordings, everything that belong to the course will need to be developed in this phase, followed by then the integration of all assets into the authoring tools of your choice. And the authoring tools that I like is called Articulate Storyline 360, but there are also authoring tools like Captivate or Lectora. If your organization choose to use that you can use other authoring tools. The next phase in ADDIE is implementation. During implementation phase, the module will be implemented into usually it is a SCORM compliant LMS if you publish your module as a SCORM package. In this phase, it also includes uploading any pre and post test questions that you have for your assessment, where you need to upload them into your learning management system, and also develop your evaluation which is the learner satisfaction questionnaire or survey. Basically, it's asking about whether your learners are satisfied with the e-learning module. And then if we're talking about a virtual classroom, then the implementation is the actual classroom, when it happened, which means that the delivery of the content, the facilitating of the activities during the synchronous session. All right, and the last phase of the ADDIE model is called evaluation. In this phase, it means that we gather. Basically, the goal of this phase is to assess the effectiveness of the e-learning module. So it means that we will gather all the feedbacks that we have from the learners, and then we would also measure the result of post-test and pre-test and do some review of item analysis. And the purpose of item analysis is to look at the quality of questions, whether they are a good question or bad question. If from the analysis we see that that question is bad items, or one of the distractors are not plausible, that need revision. So we'll do that after the pilot testing. And then after making all the final revision, then we will release the e-learning module to the, open up to the actual learners that will be taking the course or the e-learning module itself. All right. So while ADDIE is a linear model, it is important to note that changes can be made to any phase based on feedback that we receive during any of this phase. Because some of the criticism from people that they would say because ADDIE is very structured, then it's harder to make changes. I disagree, because I think that we would still be able to make the changes based on the feedback, and there are rooms for ADDIE to be flexible and adaptable as well. And then because this is very structural, and it has a strong framework, then we can definitely apply it to a wide range of learning experiences. All right, so now let's discuss a few advantages and disadvantages of ADDIE. Like I said, ADDIE offers a structured and organized methodology to create effective learning solutions. The framework provides a strong foundation while still allowing for creativity and innovation. The ADDIE model includes evaluation and assessment throughout the process and encourage feedbacks from all project partners. And ADDIE is a versatile model that applicable to various industries, contexts, and learning modalities, for example, either as e-learning or instructor-led training or virtual classroom. Some of the disadvantages or drawback or cons of ADDIE include time-consuming, and then the linear nature may not inherently support iterative process, but it can be done. And then others would say that implementing ADDIE can be resource intensive, and critics also argue that ADDIE lacks agility. But my argument is that despite its potential cons, the ADDIE model remains the best approach due to its systematic nature, flexibility, quality control, and wide applicability. And by addressing and mitigating the cons through continuous feedback, iterative feedback, and Agile methodologies, ADDIE can provide a high-quality, effective e-learning solution that meets the needs of various industries and organizations. All right, so now let's look at the next model that I'll discuss, which is SAM, or stand for Successive Approximation Model. The SAM model is an iterative ISD framework that was developed in response to the criticism of the ADDIE model. Like ADDIE, SAM also has a 5-phase model, but it is more flexible and allows for ongoing feedback and revision throughout the development process. So let's look at the phase of SAM. The first one is preparation. During preparation phase, what will happen is that you will gather information about the project, including the learning objective, intended audience, and available resources, and you would also establish a team and develop a project plan. The next phase is called iteration 0. In this phase, you'll create a prototype of the e-learning course, and the prototype may include a storyboard, a rough draft of content, and basic multimedia elements. And the purpose of the prototype is to get feedback from project partners and to establish a clear direction for the course. And the next is called iteration 1 to 3. In these phases, you'll create and test successive versions of the course, and then each iteration builds on the feedback received in the previous iteration, and then the course, your e-learning course, is refined and revised based on the ongoing evaluation and feedback from project partners. And the next stage is implementation. And in this implementation phase, the e-learning course will be delivered to, similar to the ADDIE implementation. This is when you would deliver it into a learning management system and deliver to the learners. And then we also will make sure that the course is accessible and user-friendly. And then the last phase of SAM is evaluation. And in the evaluation process phase, you'll measure the effectiveness of the e-learning course and make necessary improvement. And it may involve also analyzing assessment data, similar to ADDIE, where you take a look at the item analysis of questions that you have for pre-test and post-test. And also you would gather feedback from your intended audience during this pilot testing, and then make revision to the course based on the feedback. Alright, so now let's look at some of the pros and cons of the SAM model. One of the strengths of a SAM model is its flexibility. Because the model is iterative, it allows for ongoing feedback and revision throughout the development process. This can lead to a more effective and engaging e-learning course. However, SAM model has some potential drawbacks because it can be very time-consuming, as each iteration would require additional times and resources. For example, if you allow for for people to without boundaries, it can end up being very, very time-consuming. That's why start with expectation from the beginning will definitely help of reducing the number of iterations, and that will also making it less time consuming. But the model itself, it is more time consuming compared to the other models, and additionally, because of the iterative nature of the model, it make it harder for us to predict the development timelines and costs. But overall, the SAM model is a useful framework for creating effective e-learning courses, and it's focused on ongoing feedback and revision that can lead to courses that better meet the needs of learners and project partners. Especially for something that related to technology that always changes, I would definitely think that SAM might be a good approach or model to use for that type of project. Alright, the third ISD model that we'll discuss today is Agile. Agile model is also an iterative approach to, but it starts with software development that focus on flexibility and collaboration. The model was originally developed for software, but then because of a great use of the model itself, it has been adapted for use in the instructional system design, including e-learning development. I have to admit that in this video, I'll only focus on very I would say very basic or superficial, because this is a huge huge topic, and I don't want to spend a lot of time discussing each of the phase in Agile. But if you are interested for me to talk about it, just let me know in the comment. But right now, I'm just going to briefly talk about each of the stage. All right, Agile Manifesto is the first step. In Agile Manifesto, it is actually like a set of guiding values and principles that is the foundation of Agile model. The manifesto emphasizes on the following, which is the first one is individuals and interaction over processes and tools. In e-learning, prioritizing the needs of learners and fostering collaboration among them can lead to more successful outcomes. For example, this can involve creating a learning platform that encourages communication, peer-to-peer feedback, and group work. The second guideline is working solution over comprehensive documentation. While documentation is essential, the primary goal of e-learning is to create a functional and effective learning experience. An example of implementing this value in e-learning would be to focus on creating a minimum viable product or MVP, a version of course with just enough feature to be usable by learners, and then refining it based on user feedback. The third guideline is customer collaboration over contract negotiation. It means that engaging with learners and project partners during the e-learning development process is crucial for creating a successful e-learning experience, and this can be achieved by involving them in the design, development, and evaluation stages and collecting regular feedback. And the fourth one is responding to change over following a plan. E-learning is a dynamic field, and it is essential to be adaptable and open to change, and this can be achieved by using an iterative development approach, such as Agile Scrum framework, where the course content is developed in a short cycle, and we call that sprints with regular review and adaptation. Scrum framework. Scrum framework is a popular Agile methodology that is used to manage the development process. The framework includes a set of roles, events, and artifacts that help teams to collaborate and deliver value. The key roles in the Scrum framework include the product owner, Scrum master, and development team. Sprint. Sprints are short time-boxed periods during which development work takes place. Sprint typically lasts between 1 and 4 weeks, depending on the complexity of the work. The goal of each sprint is to deliver a potentially shippable increment of the product. I would say this is more like a prototype of sort, because the goal is still going to it gives people a chance to give feedback if there is any feedback that needs to be changed to the product itself. And backlog. Backlog is a prioritized list of features or items that need to be developed. The backlog is managed by the product owner, who is responsible for ensuring the most valuable items are developed first. If we talk about e-learning, possibly like script need to be developed first before you can do a recording, that kind of thing. So it has a prioritized list of what item needs to be done first. And then this is the other thing that is very unique to Agile, which is the daily stand-up meetings. This is very short meetings that is done daily, and the purpose is to keep the team informed about the progress and to identify any impediments to the progress. And the meeting are typically brief and focused, with each team member providing a brief update on their work since the previous meeting. Retrospectives. Retrospectives are meetings that are held at the end of each sprint to review the work that was done and to identify opportunities for improvement. Retrospectives are an important part of the Agile model as they allow teams to reflect on their work and to identify ways to improve the development process. Alright, so now let's look at the strength for Agile. One of the key strengths of Agile model is its flexibility. The model allows for changes to be made throughout the development process, which can lead to a more effective and efficient e-learning course. Additionally, the model emphasizes collaboration, teamwork, which can help to ensure that the course meet the needs of the learners and the project partners. However, Agile model also has some potential drawbacks. The flexibility of the model can make it difficult to predict timelines and costs, and the model may not be suited for all types of e-learning projects. Alright, so now my favorite. Well, ultimately, the best instructional model would depend on the specific needs and goals of your project. ADDIE, SAMS, or Agile are all effective models and can be adapted to meet the unique needs of any projects. So it is important to carefully consider the goal, the constraints, and requirements of each project before selecting which model to use. While all these models have their own strengths and drawbacks, I personally believe that ADDIE is the best models to use for most projects because of and I have a few reasons. Okay, if you want to know, my first reason is that ADDIE provides a systematic and structured approach to the instructional design process, and this will ensure all necessary steps are followed in the design and development process, and this will result in a well-planned and effective learning experience that will meet the needs and goals of the learners and the organization. The second reason I like ADDIE is that it emphasizes on a thorough analysis of the intended audience and their needs, and which is very critical for the success of any e-learning experience. That analysis of intended audience is more important than the content itself. If you compare to either SAM or Agile, that decision are usually based on collaboration. What people are saying about without having what I'm trying to say, it's lack of the framework itself. You might disagree with me, which is fine, and I know others would disagree with me. I just attended a session yesterday that presenter really liked Agile, and he was saying something that not nice about ADDIE, which I disagree. But I still respect other his opinion, and I also hope that others would also respect my opinion. And I know this is ADDIE is the longest ISD model, right? When I said longest or oldest, that's what I meant, oldest model. But because it has been here long, then you see there are a lot of successful to evidence compared to the newer models. I'm not saying that other models are bad. Of course, each of these, like I said, there are some strength and some strengths and drawbacks for each of them. But if people ask me what would be my ISD model of choice, I mean, definitely ADDIE, no question. I mean, no question asked. Or I would never think I would pick a different other models. Based on my research, I found there are like about 50 other ISD models out there. But another thing that to keep in mind, I'm not trying to be difficult or try to win or anything. I do respect, and like I said, it also depends on your budget or your constraint, the cost, because I understand that this picking the model to use, would depends on a lot a lot of factors, not only based on my experiences, but also based on the needs of the project itself. But like I said, I have always get a good outcomes when I use ADDIE model, just because there are it's very a strong foundation. So making sure that I'm following everything that I need to do, and this will ensure that the e-learning experience itself will be tailored to the specific needs of the intended audience. And then I'm sorry, I kind of like all over the place. But the third reason that I have is that some people that say that because of this is a linear, is harder to do, harder to have the iteration, or very rigid, and you cannot have flexibility, which I disagree, because I think you can adapt that. Of course, there are you cannot continuing this iteration process to the infinity, because that if you do that, you're not going to like there is no final product, because if you have that mindset. But my main point is that there should be a balance. For those who said that ADDIE lack of iteration, it depends on what kind of iteration that you're trying to do, because we still are able to make any changes and feedback in any phase of this, depending on what kind of feedback that we get from either the learners or the project partners or the SMEs themselves. And the fourth reason is that like I said, I think I mentioned it before, because this is one of the oldest model, and it has been widely used and tested over many years, and it's supported by a large body of research. So this make this model very reliable and trusted. And I also believe that it is very highly transferable model to any types of learning experiences and contexts, and which will make it a more versatile model and can be adapted to any project. All right, so there you have it. I'm sorry for all my well, anyway, there you have it, 3 ISD models or frameworks for designing and developing your e-learning. And which model have you tried? Share your experience in the comment section below. Or you agree with my favorite, or if you have other opinions, let me know in the comment section below. And just remember that this video, the purpose of this video is to offer some insights on ISD models that you can use for your upcoming e-learning project. Thank you for watching until the end. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with others who might benefit. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all my e-learning content. See you in the next video.